We're so thrilled to welcome tonight, straight after watching her directorial debut, the wonderful Dame Kristin Scott Thomas, ladies and gentlemen. Please make yourself comfortable. I never know whether to do the Dame thing or not, but you deserve it.
No, I don't know either. Sometimes I really like it.
Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
How does it feel having your film about to be birthed to the world?
It's a very. Well, it came out in America last year, and that was sort of something as well. I mean, it's sort of, yeah. Words fail me.
What has this been? I don't know, passion to want to direct for a while. Has it been something you've been, kind of with each project?
I've been sort of itching to do it for a long time, and people kept saying to me, "You should direct, you should direct," and I think, God, no, I could never do that. And then it's sort of, and then I thought, and then I had a couple of things that I was trying to get off the ground that we could never get the script quite right because of the way the world moves, because it's such a long process writing a script that suddenly things that were okay to say 2 years ago suddenly were like, you can't say that. So we had to rethink that. So anyway, that dried up, that project, and then this idea came along, and this idea was really came to pass because I had an urge to tell my brothers about my memories of their fathers, because that, as you've just seen, I was the child who lost two fathers, and then all my siblings did, of course, as well. But I was the only one who sort of had proper memories of them, so I thought I would do those and do them in that animation form that I really love, and I think it's very, very effective, with this great artist called Reza Riahi, who works from Paris, and I found that way of doing it very, very, very effective, because it's difficult to put your own memories into images, as we all know.
Yeah.
And this was a way that I feel that the viewer can sort of identify enough with it because it's not real. It's black and white drawings.
Mm-hmm.
I think they work really well.
How was that process of, kind of putting so much of your experience on paper, obviously having creative license with it in whatever way you kind of chose, but really the first thing that you wanted to share with the world in this way was a really personal story?
Yeah, I think it was probably because I've had so many times, I've been doing this for a very long time, let's be honest. And often, I mean, most of the time, there's a story in a profile written about me which has a little paragraph or a little phrase about my tragic childhood. And I suddenly felt, oh, hang on a minute, shouldn't I be the one talking about it rather than everyone else telling me it was tragic? And that's where that idea, sort of the idea for the little short animated films for my brothers, then grew into something. Well, actually, I could use that into making a fiction about these women who are dealing with a similar problem of grief. Yeah.
So you decide to direct, and directing means that you've got a lot of jobs to do, and you're kind of captain of the ship of a lot of different departments.
Yeah.
And because you've worked with so many great directors throughout your career, I imagine if it's something that you've wanted to do for so long, you've kind of like taken things along the way of things that you want to do as a director and also things you don't want to do as a director.
Well, no, the thing is about that is that you kind of absorb these things without really being able to name them and being able to label them as, oh, that idea came from so-and-so, or that was the way he did that. But then I remember as I was doing the film, as I was running around, being asked questions, having to make these decisions very, very quickly. Where do you want to put the camera? That sort of thing was, I would think about, it reminded me a lot of people that I had worked with and how, Polanski would go about looking, and how or Sidney Pollack would, or these pretty good people. So that they would kind of creep in, and I realised that actually I had absorbed quite a lot more than I thought I had, without being able to actually give you a line of a example of something. But there was one piece of advice that I tell you what was the most interesting for me anyway, was to see the difference between being an actor and being a director. And it isn't just about making decisions. It's about being in charge. It's about getting people to do what you want them to do and not being the person who's doing what everyone else wants you to do. So that was a new thing for me, and it took me a couple of weeks to sort of get over it and stop saying, "Gosh, would you mind awfully if we just had to do that one again? Do you think you'd be able to say it like, it took me a long time to get over that and stop worrying about the actors and stop worrying about the state the actors were going to be in and how they were going to behave and were they comfortable, and stop worrying about all of that and just starting to tell them what to do."
And then you really enjoyed it.
But when you have people of that caliber, of people like Sienna or Emily or Scarlett, I mean, they are so brilliant. And what it has done, it's given me a new respect for actors, because I now see them from another side. And to watch somebody take instruction, sometimes argue with it, sometimes disagree, sometimes show you another way, sometimes show you a million times better than you'd ever even imagined. Watching that happen to me, being the asker, was just so amazing. It was like being given the keys to an extremely luxurious and very, very fast car. You touch it and it goes vroom. It's just amazing.
And then you've got to act in it yourself as well.
That was not amazing. That was absolute hell, actually. It was really hard. Really hard, yeah. Because you can't really, and I kept thinking, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what she does. But you can't really look at yourself and look at someone else while you're looking at yourself. Something happens. You're kind of, I think it's instinctive. You kind of get drawn to see what, especially when you're an actor, because we judge ourselves all the time. So you're kind of constantly So I would put my hand over the screen, the monitor, so that I wouldn't look at that woman in the corner, and just make sure that I was concentrating on the others. I find that really, really difficult.
Were you involved in the casting process, I imagine, for this?
Yeah. I mean, but it was Lucy Bevan who came up with all these brilliant ideas. I mean, it all fell into place really when Scarlett accepted. And Scarlett accepted incredibly quickly, because they had a very short sort of time frame to be able to do it, because I was doing Slow Horses and she was doing something else. So we had this few months where we both were free. And so I sent her this script. I said, "Look, I'm sending you this. I know it's a big ask. Could you read it like tonight?" And the next day she rang and said, "I'll do it."
Oh.
And then everything just went tick, 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 and fell into place.
Including a little moment that I preempted to the audience to look out for tonight, which was a really beautiful little Four Weddings moment, where, brother and sister back then, husband and wife in this. That was just a really lovely little moment.
A little upgrade for
really
James
lovely
Fleet.
with James Fleet in
yes,
that.
No, that's
so great. I love that.
Yeah.
I had a little squeal when I watched it. And I going, "Oh yeah!" It was just.
No.
It was.
He's so lovely. He's so generous. Such a generous actor. He's great to work with.
Another side of it,
and brings all these other things, by the way. So we had this thing when we had this French song, and he said, I love that song so much, and it is so French, but it's just a fantastic piece of music. And he said, "Well, it just sort of comes out of nowhere, out of left field." And I said, "Yes, that's why it's so great." And he said, "No, I think you have to kind of bring it in." So he was the person who provided this wonderful line that I didn't know was true, was that Baudelaire was the one that you could say, I can't even remember what it is, something about, you could say very loving things in French, but not in English. So, some things you can't say in English.
The music side of things, though, was a part of it that you really enjoyed, both in terms of, you got a great composer and Rolf Kent who were working on the film, and then that
Yes.
moment at the end, I don't know if it broke everybody else in the room, but it broke me, that
Carly
fantastic
Simon song.
cover of
I
Carly Simon.
know. Alanis Morissette. I mean, what a stroke of luck was that? I mean, we wanted something really kind of a good sort of heart-wrenching anthem-y
Yeah.
type thing, and we got it.
Yep.
You know, it was great. And that was Clee Savage, who was the music director on that. He was
yeah.
brilliant.
And what about working with a composer? How did you find
I thought that was absolutely fascinating because I'd go in there, I say, and I don't have the language of music. I don't have I don't know anything about notes and beats. I don't know anything about that, but I know what I like. And so it was really interesting to sit down with him with this amazing sort of computery thing he's got and see how he could bring things to the foreground and make things float away, and how clever it was with melody as well, how you could take one little tune and turn it into all sorts of different shapes. I thought that was really incredible. And I loved the folk band with their song. I thought that was great. They wrote that song.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was so much music in this film.
It is quite
so
a lot,
many lots
isn't
of
there?
different. Was all that written in the script, or did you find some of it as you were kind of going through as well?
I hadn't really thought about, apart from the Benny and the Jets, which I was just sort of was written in the script. I hadn't really thought about that side of it. I remember thinking there are people who know better than I do about that. So I was really wonderfully surprised when we came up with all these other ideas that were helpful. In the beginning, the opening part of the film, and initially I'd wanted the King's Singers version of, I think, oh God, what was it called? Anyway, it was an old medieval song by the King's Singers, and I was told that I couldn't have that because it wasn't, didn't work.
Yeah.
Very disappointed about that.
But I guess that's another thing that you learn with this kind of new journey, is that collaboration and working with kind of, people who are at the top of their game in their different departments.
Yes,
and it's a
completely.
real team effort as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and you have to trust that they know what they're doing, and you do, because they're brilliant. But that was a learning curve too. I mean, it was all a huge sort of adventure, the whole thing. But the thing that really, really, really I really enjoyed, I think, the most was doing the soundtrack. Doing all the sound at Pinewood when we went into the sound studios, and we did all the fiddling around with the dogs in the background and I mean, all these things that you can really modulate something completely, make something frightening, make something warm and friendly. You can really, really, and the way they use the voices of the actors, how you can just choose the sound edit. You can just choose one take where she says it this way, and you can put it in I mean, it's just a huge puzzle. I really hadn't quite figured out how much of a puzzle the film is.
It's so wonderful because you've been, been in these wonderful films for years, but suddenly you've almost been allowed to peer behind the curtain in a way you've never had the chance to.
It's exactly that, peering behind the curtain, exactly that. And it was really exciting and a lot more intense and what's the creative than I'd ever imagined, actually.
Sounds fulfilling as well. Like you've been completely fulfilled by the experience.
Yeah. I mean, I would wake up every morning at 5 thinking, ooh, can I just quite get there? But somehow the energy of being on a film set, and I mean, it is sort of second nature for me to be on a film set. I've been doing it for such a long time, as I mentioned earlier. And I love it, but doing that particular job is very fulfilling and also frustrating at times, and sometimes there was one day when I just wanted the ground to open up and me to fall in the crack. I just did not know what to do, and luckily I had my DOP, Yves Béranger, who's absolutely brilliant.
What helps you, or what informed those decisions for you about who you would work with, in terms of
Well, I
DOP?
trusted Finola Dwyer, my producer, on that. And she'd worked with Eve before on Brooklyn. and there were other people who because as I say, it was quite last minute because
Yeah.
we had this time scale. Lots of people that I wanted to work with, that I've worked with them before and love what they do,
Yeah.
weren't available, obviously. So you have to meet new people, and when you can't have the person that you really, really, really want to do it with, you've got to go out there and meet new people, and then you discover that there's somebody who is super talented as well in a different way, and it brings something else. So you just have to be open, and compromise also is a word that that is a useful thing to bear in mind when you're making film.
Do you think it will have changed how you are as just an actor in your next?
Definitely. Yeah. I understand now why they want to make us do it again.
And again.
And again. I understand that far better now, and I understand it's complicated setting up a bit, especially the first thing we did was the stuff on the ship.
Oh, wow.
There was like baptism of fire,
That
And
was
getting that shot when she's going up in the lift, I love that
that's
shot when
like
she's going
Tom
up.
Cruise Top
Yeah,
Gun vibes,
exactly.
that is.
Exactly what I was going for. No, all of that was really, it was challenging because we didn't have very much time, and you realize what a privilege it is to be on that ship, and yet the pressure is on, and it was massive. It's so big that if somebody wasn't there and you didn't know exactly where they were, you would then send someone off for 40 minutes trying to find them. And there was one person who got completely lost and got terrified because she couldn't find anybody.
Off to sea.
Off the sea. No. Luckily, that ship doesn't seem to have gone anywhere. But anyway,
But I don't know if this was deliberate, but obviously the film, you mentioned a couple of wonderful females that you work with, producer and DOP, and these three.
actually, my DOP was a man. He's called Yves,
sorry.
but it's Yves. Bélanger. I'll tell him that.
Yeah, please do. Beautiful female name he has. But these three sisters, and how individual and different they are, and their stories and their reactions to, grief and history and their situation stuff. You've written some really fascinating female characters in this film, and I wondered if that was kind of, if you deliberately wanted to explore female stories within one big picture.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is a film about women and mothers and lovers, and that was definitely part of it all. Yeah, and to see how, and I've also been very interested in how people at the top, you want to look at it like that, but people in power. What were they like when they were kids? What's happened to them that makes them, super powerful or super scary or super this or super that? What makes them like that? And I know that a lot of my character traits were forged by the events that you saw in black and white just now. And so I wanted to sort of not study it, but just have a peek, have a look, have a little wander around there and see how that was. And have these three women who all react completely differently to the same events. And that happens within families all the time. And I'm also interested in family dynamics, who isn't? And particularly between sisters.
Yeah.
And I do have sisters. And, I went to all girls schools, so I know what women are like altogether, girls are like altogether. And I love the idea that when grown-ups and even very powerful, important people get home, they suddenly become kids.
Yeah.
And that, the child rears its ugly head. And that's that. And we're off to the races.
But it is so fascinating about how three different people can go through the same situation and how they do respond different, and also how they all have different memories of it as well.
Yes.
And our memories are made from different things. From what is the real truth of a memory? What is it? Is it a photograph? So you're remembering what you saw. It's so fascinating. All of that as well.
And that was also part of the reason that I chose the animation rather than, trying to recreate
Yeah.
something in a film way, but because of the sort of impressionistic idea of it. But one of my favorite moments in the film is when the mother just says, and basically breaks her story about the story that she's made up about herself, that it was all her fault that her father had died, and if only she'd been able to tell him, and if only she'd been able to take his name, it would all be all right. And then the mother blows that out of the water with her version of the events. And I love that. I like films that take you in different directions like that, and you think that something's going to be like this, but no, it's not.
Have you been encouraged by this experience to do more directing?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I will.
But not before we have some slow horses, please.
Not before that, and not before quite a lot of other things.
Oh, great. Has the response to Slow Horses surprised you, Tom? I mean, I was just waxing lyrical to you about how fantastic it is. It's there's nothing like it.
No, it is a great show. That's it. But it is also one of the, I think at one point it was the most successful show in the world that came out of Europe. So, I mean, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be proud of. And, it was watched around the world, and it's about London, and it's grimy, and it's gritty, and it's funny, and it's scary. And you get emotionally really attached to these characters. I mean, it's a brilliant piece. It really is. And I mean, the writing is really good. The acting is superb, except for that blonde one. And then, it's just beautifully filmed. And we've had the same crew forever. Actually, not quite ever, because last season we flipped. We had new gang in. But it's the sort of imprint of it is so strong.
I was lucky enough to host a Q&A with Gary and a couple of the cast, and he told this brilliant story about how he loves working with you, and he just said it's you had such a great time playing the Churchills,
Yes.
and I'm getting the chance to be back on screen together. But he said he also likes occasionally winding you up, where he tells you that he's read the next couple of books ahead, and he sort of goes, "You'll never guess what's going to happen between the two of them."
Yeah, I know that did give me the chills. Yeah, he likes that. That's his idea of fun. No, I mean, the problem with me is that I love watching the series. I can't wait for it to come out so I can, because I can never remember what happened. But don't, please, it's not quite as bad as it sounds, because we do shoot. What you get to see is 2 seasons ago. So I've done like 12 episodes of another whole thing before that. Before it comes out here. So my mind is blank when I watch it, and I'm thrilled.
What do you love about playing that character?
I just love her kind of scheming, and I love the scheming, and I love the coolness. And I'm just waiting. Well, I can't say anything.
Oh, nearly.
You nearly got me. You nearly got me.
I have this weird thing that I do where I love characters so much, where I kind of like not fantasize about them, because that sounds weird, but like, oh, I wonder what she listens to when she goes home overnight. Does she listen to music? Is she a vinyl lady?
I think she listens to George Michael. Secretly, it's her thing. He has a bath with a glass of champagne and listens to George Michael.
Father figure. Thinking of Jackson Lamb.
Yeah. There you go. No, I have no. I mean, I'm being silly, obviously.
I love that.
But anyway, that's my idea.
When you are kind of being sent scripts for new projects and stuff, what are you looking for? What are the things that are making you say yes to new projects?
Adventure. I want to do things I haven't done before. And what happens in this business, which is perfectly natural, is that when you've had a success at one thing, then people want to repeat that success. So they'll write something quite similar, or they'll want you to come back and you'd really nail that, because they've seen you nail it before. But I don't want to nail the same thing twice. I want to do different things. But I've been incredibly lucky in my career because I speak 2 languages. I've been able to do a lot of French films, and that is a different type of storytelling, and with much quite varied roles
Mm.
there.
When in the same way that you said that after, directing, it's definitely changed how you go back into acting. Have there been particular projects or roles that you've played that have, for you, I don't know, kind of excelled you in your craft, where you feel like you've come away with either learning something new or strengthened you as an actor or developed you as an actor in more ways than others?
Gosh, that's a really interesting question that I've never asked myself, and maybe you should have asked me that yesterday, so I could come up with a sensible answer. But I think what happens when you are performing on film is you don't really know where it's going to end up. So what I tend to do, and what I like to encourage, I advise people to do, is to do a kind of instinctive, for example, if you're doing a scene, so you do an instinctive run at it, then you get instructions from the director, and then you feel with your acting partner. Sometimes you don't have an acting partner. You've got the camera and you're sort of on your own with it. And the actor is standing off to one side, and he's done his close-up, so he's not really interested with what's going on here. Sometimes that happens, rarely. But anyway, where was I going with that? So I tend to try and give a kind of variation of what I do, which apparently drives editors mad. But in the end, it's all right, I think. You just have to try different things. And if they say, can you do that again? I will try and do it again, but I'm not very good at doing the same thing twice. So I do try and keep it alive like that. But, working with Gary, for example, is just, it's really good, really, really good fun. And that's why I'm still there 6 years later. It's really, really fun.
Yeah.
Because he's so generous that if he sees you going, if he can sense you going off in a certain direction, he'll absolutely go that way, and we can sort of muck around with. I mean, we say muck around. It's not really mucking around because it's a very serious job, but we can play with things. I mean, in French, it's called playing. But we are players. It is acting. It is on joue. We are playing basically like kids, but it can be very, very inventive and very extraordinary. If you find something, you find a little crack in something, and the other actor is ready to go with you on that or against you on that, but not just say, well, hang on a minute, what's she doing? That's fun to be able to work with Gary doing with that sort of thing, which is why we work well together, I think.
He's currently on stage at the minute, isn't he?
I know.
Playing.
Yeah, going to see him this weekend.
That's another important platform for you in terms of
I love
opportunity to
Yeah.
do something different every night, like similar you're talking about for takes.
I know
in film.
people say to me all the time, but don't you have to do the same thing over and over and over again? Every night, the same thing. And it just isn't. I don't know. It just isn't the same every night, because you're not the same every night. And, and there's a different vibe in the air. It's always a little bit, it feels different. It has a different energy.
Going back to soundtracks.
Yes.
Is soundtracks something that you're a fan of from other films that you listen to? Do you have ones that you return to?
Well, there's one very, very famous one from one of my more famous films, The English Patient.
Yes, I knew you were going to.
Which literally gives me goosebumps and tears spring. Just the first few chords and few bars, or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful, so evocative. That's one of my favorites. And then there are other things that I've sort of drawn a complete blank about.
That's okay.
Which
That's
ones
a great
they are.
choice to have anyway.
But there are other things where you think the music in this is so good. Paul Thomas Anderson always has the most fantastic soundtracks. You know.
One Battle After Another. The last one was
Oh, wasn't
quite
that brilliant?
extraordinary. Yeah.
Oh, I love that film so
Yeah,
much.
me too. Me too.
That was an incredible soundtrack, wasn't it?
Yeah, really. Just the way that on that when they
The
were on
thing,
the road
the
of
road.
hills,
Yeah,
and the way that Johnny Greenwood pitch shifted
yeah.
the music to make you almost feel as you
I
were.
know.
It's so clever.
It's really clever.
So clever.
Yeah.
Do you know what's next?
What's next is more Slow Horses. Then the Cherry Orchard on stage.
Yes.
And then
A holiday.
a brief break. And then I'll be doing something else. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming to chat to us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Share your wonderful stories of making this film. And I really think it's a lovely gift to people as well. My mum's one of 7 girls. And I think that there's a real conversation starter in the film as well, from people going to see it with siblings, with family, to kind of come away and start conversations. And that's all you can really ask, I think, of
Well,
great
I think
stories.
if that happens, then mission accomplished. Because I mean, that's really what we want. What we want to do as storytellers is create a conversation, is provoke ideas, and have people think, oh yes, I wonder if I've done that, and just have reflection on what it is to be a mother, what it is to be a daughter, what it is to have to want to be loved, what it is to be grieving. You know.
Yeah. Can't wait for the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. The wonderful Kristin
Thank you
Scott
very
Thomas.
much. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a safe journey home. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much for your support. Cheers.